What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father. At Amazon, Kindle, Create Space. Link will be in the description box below as usual. Go get it. PayPal, there also. They asked me to put it up, so I put it up. Thanks everybody for supporting. But this video, though, is entitled Using Propaganda to Maintain the Status Quo. See, when you're raised, you use television, now social media, imagery, music, as a form of propaganda, education, and religion, as a form of indoctrination, so you can maintain the status quo. And this happens in various ways, and a lot of times this is why people talk about dog whistles, trigger words, things that make you jump to react before you think, right? And the reason why this happens is because people want to maintain the status quo. Like, people are comfortable with the society being the way it is for the most part. People who are benefiting the most from it. So people who aren't benefiting from it want to change it. So one of the tactics you use is propaganda. So think about it. I saw a news article maybe about 10-20 minutes ago. They're going to be layoffs at the police department. So all of a sudden, murders are on the rise. What is that? That's propaganda to maintain the status quo. We need to keep these people hired. So look, a couple people got killed. You see, murder is going crazy all over the place. We need more cops. They need their jobs. That's propaganda to make you go, okay. We don't want people to lose their lives. Keep the guys hired. Now, to be in a position to have to lay people off, that means you're overstaffed because of maybe the lack of crime or in the area, or you just overstaffed in general, and you got it covered. But what keeps people in line? Propaganda. The same thing, the military says, we're going across seas for your freedom. How the hell you gonna go all the way across the ocean to kill some people for my freedom? They ain't bring their ass over here. But that's the propaganda. You need to maintain the status quo, because if a military can go from the shores of the East Coast or West Coast, travel across the Atlantic or Pacific, and set up shop in a foreign country, and if the people in their own country say, hey man, what are y'all doing here? You muscle them. You're doing it for my freedom or your economic benefit. When you think about it, what is the American GDP? I mean, what does the budget consist of primarily? Defense. Right? So most of America's money is tied up in military, guns, ships, planes, weapons, stations. You get what I'm saying? Globally. So when people say, we need to cut back from the military, what happens? Don't you think we you spending too much on defense? What happens? Oh, there's a terrorist attack, some insurgents, or a bombing, or somebody kidnapped the Smurfs and we got to go get them. Propaganda that makes people go, hey, we got to maintain the status quo. See, we got to put more money into defense. Papa Smurf has not returned back. I think Gargamel hooked up with Al-Qaeda and he's not giving them back. Like this type of stuff. It's very simple. And this plays into entertainment, because when this country is quote unquote at war or trying to create or create an enemy, the very enemy that they say we need to create to keep spending up for, is the very enemy that you're going to see in the upcoming movies. Right? If this country was at war with midgets, you'll see midgets in action movies blowing up stuff. running real short steps, just blowing up buildings, because you need the propaganda to maintain the status quo. You know, when people think about birth of a nation, the original birth of a nation, the idea was, black men are going to be raping white women. Why was that needed? To maintain the status quo of murdering brothers. They're going to be after Guinevere, so we got to kill them all because they're just lusting after women. And what happens to this day? If a brother get too big, you bring out a bunch of white women. He was talking to white women. We got to shut him down. Okay, great. It's something to do with sex. If it ain't white women, it's, some sexual crime or sexual deviancy to maintain the status quo of he's the boogeyman. Look what he does. Now, if you notice, when you look around, who are the biggest deviants sexually and rapists? They're not black men. So what winds up happening is, people just roll with it. And when these things happen with other people, they let them off the hook. Why? Because the propaganda has programmed people to, well, he did this and they did that, but, they're really not the bad ones. The black ones are. Okay, fine. You're going to keep catching L's like that too. Propaganda maintains the status quo. Same thing, the reverse, when people say, talk about welfare queens. The welfare queens, the face of welfare queens would be considered black women. Are black women the majority of people on welfare? No, actually not. But guess what? You keep the propaganda, it maintains the status quo. Every time we're giving out quote unquote welfare benefits, you're helping these black people. Oh, okay, that's what we're doing. Okay. Same thing with affirmative action. You must be an affirmative action hire, because the propaganda says an affirmative action hire is unqualified, right? So if you got hired because of affirmative action, you gotta be unqualified. Can't be that the system is rigged and that's why we got affirmative action in the first place. Now, people like me don't really benefit from it, but that's not the point. The point is the propaganda maintains the status quo, right? Like, I like sports. Football, boxing primarily. They have football has prototypes. This is a prototype. This is what you prototypically should look like to be good. Boxing has styles. This style, if you're this, and they say styles make fights. So it's kind of like, if this style fights this style is probably going to win. If this style fights this style is probably going to lose, right? So here's the problem. It's propaganda. Because when you got a prototype, all of a sudden people cater to the prototype because it maintains the status quo. This is what it's supposed to be. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what's supposed to represent the brand. And this is what we're going to pay. Because historically, this is what people have gravitated to, right? So if you have something that upsets the balance, it's going to always be looked at kind of, no. Prime example. The Bills drafted Josh Allen. All Josh Allen is doing is running. He has the big arm. Now, think about Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. See, they're not saying Josh Allen can't read defenses or he's not a good quarterback pocket presence. They're like, oh, man, he rushed for 172 yards today. Man, this is propaganda. Lamar Jackson does that. He's running out of talent because, You know, those quarterbacks, they don't really have it up here. It's propaganda. It maintains the status quo. That's all it is. Same thing, you know, with boxing. He's a puncher. You know, he doesn't have any defense. Or he's a brawler. He doesn't have any defense. He's just going to go in there swinging. And the trainers will train you that way. Since this guy ain't do nothing but swing, look, man, just let it all hang out, bro. If you get caught, you're a brawler. Because it's entertaining. You know, that's part of what the Rocky movies was about. You know, the Great White Hype, too. But that's part of propaganda, maintaining the status quo. There's always some great white dude lurking in the background that's going to come and, you know, restore the balance, right? The avatar of life and whatnot. But when you're looking out in society, you got to think about it. Like, you know, look at things not as if they're just entertainment. A lot of times it's propaganda. You know, if you look at the music industry and the imagery, think about it. You know, it has a certain stereotype with it. You know, even with our music, if it's pushing dysfunction, it's pushed heavily. If it pushes function, it's not pushed anymore. In other groups, so it's pushing that the community is dysfunctional to keep up the status quo that we're dysfunctional, while everybody else steals the older music and looks like they're very functional and ingenious to prop up their stereotype of being functional and ingenious, right? So you got to think about this stuff sometimes, man. Don't just take everything for the surface value of it and look into it. So I'm out with this one. Y'all take care. Peace.